Without Tomas Hertl, Longator, Alexander Barabanov, and all the rest of them, the Sharks grind out a 2-1 victory over the Washington Capitals. We'll talk about that, if it's sustainable, and get caught up on the latest Sharks news. So all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do is just follow on wherever you get podcasts, or you can subscribe on YouTube as well. If you're on Apple listening, take 2 seconds, leave a nice review. Haven't gotten a good review in a while. Or just haven't gotten a review in a while, to be honest. So that would be much appreciated. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to subscribe, because we have plenty of good stuff coming on here at Locked On Sharks. So the Sharks grind out a 2-1 win over the Caps. That's the best way to put this game, because this game was a physical, grindy out type of game. And Mackenzie Blackwood continues to do Mackenzie Blackwood things, as he has been stellar all season, and he continues to be stellar tonight. So we're going to discuss the Sharks win, what the big kind of takeaways from it, look at the lines, look at kind of the defensive pairings, and then kind of figure out what if this is sustainable for the road trip, as the Sharks face a long East Coast road trip against some big quality teams, and see if they can continue to kind of maybe stack some momentum going forward. So before we get to all that, do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you guys by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app, use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So 2-1 win. You're down Tomas Hertl, who was out. They said practice was out due to a mid-body injury. It's supposed to be day-to-day. Hopefully he's ready for Thursday's road trip when they play the Bruins. The Sharks signed Justin Bailey, who was, if you remember, preseason he was a PTO tryout. Ended up signing an AHL-only deal with the Barracuda. Has been arguably one of the best players on, you could say the best player on the Barracuda this season, leading the Barracuda in points. Signed him to an NHL deal today. So just quick reminder. So yes, he's on he's on the Sharks. Justin Bailey will have to clear waivers to go back to the Barracuda, even though he's on a two-way deal. That just kind of finagles the money around for him to where I think he gets paid a little bit more in the AHL, but he will still need to clear waivers when and if that time comes. I assume that time will probably come at some point. And then Philip Zadina placed on IR as well. So a lot of moving pieces here for the Sharks as they continue. They now have five players on IR right now, which is kind of been the story of the season, right? It's just this team has not been fully healthy this year, but to their credit, it was a grind of a win tonight, to their credit. And, going into this game, you kind of, if you watch my preview thing, I said the special teams are going to have to continue to build. Sharks got a power play goal late in the third period on a questionable call. I felt like it wasn't really high stick, was a follow through, but sometimes that's the way the puck bounces for you. It's not like the Sharks haven't had questionable calls go against them. It's just that this stuff will even out, right? Sharks go on a power play. They take advantage thanks to Justin Bailey's great work. And Justin Bailey was noticeable every time he was on the ice tonight. And if you've watched any Barracuda games, you know what Justin Bailey does. He's very fast. He's strong, powerful, big boy right at 6'4", but he is super fast. And you noticed him every time he was on the ice tonight. But great board work by him to win the puck through two guys, kind of find some space, and then Luke kind of reading off of him, especially again. Like these guys practice much together. They probably practiced a little bit in the preseason, but Luke kind of was still kind of working his way back from an injury. So that's just kind of hockey instinct there. That those two guys were able to read off there, and Luke kind of drills a shot when he needed to kind of win the game. But I mean, this game though was all about the physicality and just hit after hit after hit. Tom Wilson kind of setting the foundation as Tom Wilson does with the hit on Kalen Addison that knocked Addison out for a couple shifts. But the Sharks responded. Nikita Okhotiuk, physical, Kyle Burroughs, both those guys laying dudes out tonight. And this was a very, even Mikael Granlund hitting Ovechkin. And Ovechkin, very physical player himself. For a guy who scores a bajillion goals, he also has a bajillion hits. And this was just a physical, grinded out type of game. And you can do that when you have Mackenzie Blackwood playing the way Mackenzie Blackwood's playing right now. And he has been absolutely stellar all season. I've said it before. I'll continue to say it again. He has been amazing for the Sharks this year. And they found this kind of bit of a recipe for success right now. We'll talk about how sustainable it is going forward, especially on this road trip. But the Sharks have been 5-1-1 at home in their last 7 games. Like, remember, this team won 8 games last year in totality at home. They've won 5-1-1, and they could have won the Montreal game. They had a lead in that game and blew a lead there. This team has been able to kind of find something that's working at home, despite also having 2 games where they gave up 10 goals earlier this month. But it's not the prettiest hockey. It's downright ugly at times, but it's working right now. And hats off to these guys who, again, we asked just to play competent hockey at times for good chunks. And Sharks have kind of, they come out, they play hard the first period, and it's been kind of, they get a lead, and it's basically like, can we hold on for a good chunk of the game? And it's worked the past couple games for them, and they've taken advantage of opportunities. Like we said, the special teams have been better. The power play was little funky tonight, especially with Addison kind of missing the first one. But again, they scored when they needed to. And then the penalty kills been better. They got a little lucky tonight. Again, the Caps power play, I think I saw they've gone a solid hour without scoring a goal, which is insane. If you think about it, a solid hour without scoring a goal. But they got hit a couple posts, got a little bit, and that's what you need. You need a little bit of puck luck to go your way. So the Sharks have, they're a very grindy, ugly team right now, but they're kind of finding a way to at least keep things competitive, which is better than what we saw, 3 weeks ago at this time. We were, and even against the Kraken, when they got absent, that stuff's still going to happen, right? That we know this team is just a talent poor team, right? Especially when you're running out a top line of William Eklund, Luke Cunnin, and Mike Hoffman as your first line. His team is very talent poor at the moment, but they're playing hard. And credit to David Quinn, who's kind of hung in there. And, I've definitely said my piece about David Quinn, but this team has responded recently, right? And can you continue to respond? And they've played some good teams, right? The Capitals have won, they won 6 out of 7 or something like that recently. The Canucks are one of the best stories of the season. I know they've cooled off here a little bit. Like, if you can just kind of hang in there and play some quality hockey, you're not asking for a lot of wins. Just make this team interesting and watchable, and you're continuing to develop your young pieces. So, and you're seeing that. I know Eklund, we'll talk about Eklund here, didn't have the greatest game, but Fabian Zetterlund looks like a brand new player. Another goal for him tonight. It's already has a career high with 6 goals. More goals than Timo Meier. Yes, Timo Meier has played like 7 less games than Fabian Zetterlund, but still, Fabian Zetterlund looks like a dude, and we'll talk more about Fabian Zetterlund at some point this week because he's going to be a big piece for the Sharks going forward. So before we get into the numbers and we talk about kind of what's sustainable and maybe what's not going against some of these big teams on the East Coast, just need to take a quick break. Talk to you about our good friends over at Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. The Sharks could score 50 goals in a season, potentially, maybe. Sharks could definitely be in the running to win the draft lottery, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is just pick either some of your favorite players or some of your favorite stars. If you want to pick like Ovechkin, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, or if you want to pick Tomas Hertl, Slippery Pete, Mackenzie Blackwood, and record more or less than their sleeper projection for things like goals, assists, saves, plus and minus or more in a given game. So to win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, all you got to do is just correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Sharks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, so let's dig into the numbers. I love natural stat trick. I love natural stat trick so much. My only thing with him right now is because they still see Jacob McDonald as a defenseman, so they don't like count his playing in the forwards. Maybe I'll like reach out to them and see if we can get some like help or flexibility to it, because it's really kind of messes with the numbers a little bit. But the Sharks, though, in this game, kind of like I mentioned, right? They kind of got out. They were, kind of took it a little bit to especially that first period, kind of took it to the Caps. We're kind of hanging in there in the second period. And then about midway through the second period, the Caps really put the pedal to the metal, got the tying goal. You can see that tying goal coming because they spent about 2 minutes straight in the Sharks defensive zone. And then it was kind of even the rest of the game. The Sharks got 2 power plays, but were able to kind of play to the Caps to a draw at 5v5. And then great effort at the last kind of 2 minutes or so when the Caps are trying to get Kemper off the ice, and just a full court press of no, we're not going to let you get out of the zone and try to get your offense going. Kudos to that, because that's how often do we just see right, you kind of give that up, and then next thing you know, you're playing 2.5 minutes of trying to just hold on for dear life. Sharks, I thought were pretty smart there and put that full court press on, make them really have to work to get into the zone and set things up. But we had just about 47 minutes of 5v5 time. Capitals outshot the Sharks, or shot attempts to the Sharks was 44-38. Actual shots was 24-17 in favor of the Caps. Corsi for 53.66 to 46.34 in favor of the Caps. 24-17 scoring chances again in favor of the Caps. In that third period is where you really saw the difference. It was 13-6 there in favor of the Capitals, and the other ones were basically a tie. But that was the period where the Caps again really kind of put the pressure on the Sharks to try to get back into this game. 6-5 high danger chances in favor of the Sharks. 2.21 to 1.31 expected goals for, and the Sharks again come out strong, and then just trying to hold on for dear life. So the forward lines. So we had Eklund, Cunnin, Hoffman as your first line, or A line. Zetterlund, Granlund, Duclair as another line. Then you had Giovanni Smith, Ryan Carpenter, Justin Bailey as your fourth line, and then Nico Sturm, Kevin LeBanc, and Jacob McDonald as your third line, but things got mixed up very quickly. Bailey kind of went from the fourth line to the third line very quickly, and then he played a shift on the top line because Eklund had a bad turnover so I guess Eklund needed to sit for a shift or get sent down for a shift or whatever, even though the turnover was literally offsides like 2 seconds later, but whatever. None of the four lines looked super great, except for the fourth line with Justin Bailey. But yes, the line's not great tonight when it comes to the numbers. So Zetterlund, Granlund, Duclair played 9:25 time on ice. They had 3 shot attempts, gave up 10, 3 to 5 actual shots. Expected goals was 0.26 to 0.21, 3 to 7 scoring chances in favor of the Caps, 1-1 high danger chances, and 2-1-5 for the zone starts. Eklund, Kunin, Hoffman, 709, 1 shot attempt, 9 actual shot attempts gave up, 0 to 4 shots, 0.01 expected goals, 4 to 0.35, 0 to 3 scoring chances, and no high danger chances for or gave up, 2-2-2 for your zone start. So that's not the greatest line right there. Shows how important Tomas Hertl is. And I get the trying to keep some continuality, especially between Zetterlund, Duclair, and Duclair, which has looked pretty solid recently. But again, right, it's Ekman had a very kind of C plus B minus type of game. You saw some of the flashes, right? But you saw it just wasn't his best game, right? And watching it, I don't think it was his best game. We've seen better games from Eklund. But again, I think that goes back to the point I made yesterday about quality center depth and how it helps, right? And Luke Kunin, God bless his soul, he had a great game. He had, a normal Luke Kunin game, made a great play to score. But Luke Kunin's more of a winger, and he's more of like a third line type of player, right? And I know, again, the Sharks are very talent poor. You're missing Tomas Hertl. You're trying to kind of scramble and put things to back together right now. And this is just guys kind of playing out of their element. And again, you can't ask William Eklund to kind of carry the load on this line, especially because Mike Hoffman's more of a kind of not roam around, but kind of roam around and kind of Johnny on the spot type of player, right? And I think Mike Hoffman needs guys like Hertl and Eklund to kind of carry the load to make him look better, right? And plenty of guys have made plenty of great careers out of that. It kind of reminds me of Jeremy Roenick at the end of his, especially his Sharks days, right? You just kind of see him roaming around, and then boom, he's in the right place at the right time to score a goal or rip on Patrick Marleau, or do both. But that's just kind of what Hoffman, that's what he does on that line. That's perfectly fine, especially when you're playing with Eklund and Hertl. So hopefully Hertl's back soon, so we don't have to continue to see the Eklund-Kunin experience for my personal sake. So then we had Smith, Carpenter, LeBanc, played 337, 3 shots for, 6 allowed. LeBanc took a nasty hit at the end of the game and left, and I guess he was back on the bench, so we'll see if he has any ramifications from that. The Sharks are running out of bodies here very quickly, so I'll be interested to see what they do going into this road trip, especially if Hertl's not ready for Thursday. The hope is that Hertl's ready for Thursday. They say it's day to day with his, but I mean that basically you're at 12 forwards right now. Haven't heard anything on Lindblom. I know Barabanov's skating. Couture's supposed to start skating here soon, and Phillips Zadina just got placed on IR, and then I guess Jacob McDonald. So you got 13 forwards right now. So I guess that's kind of what they're going to run with right now, and hope that Hertl gets back. So, let's quickly get into we'll look at Mackenzie Blackwood. So yeah, the 4 lines were kind of a mess tonight. So a lot of mixing and matching as trying to piece things together. So Blackwood, another amazing game. So 34 shots, 33 saves, 1 goal against, expected goals against in all situations was 3.51, 971 save percentage, 9 high danger shots, 9 high danger saves, 15 mid danger, 14 mid danger saves, and then 10 for 10 on the low danger. And the one that scored bounced off Nikita Okhotiuk. Nikita Okhotiuk, 2 assists tonight, 1 for and 1 against. So, yeah, I mean, Blackwood continues to be really, really special for the Sharks this year. And that man is getting shelled constantly. So, good for Blackwood. So, before we get into kind of what's sustainable going on this road trip, look at this road trip and kind of, play a little wins or losses here. Just need to take a quick break. If you run a small solo business, you're an army of one, but you still need a CPA, a bookkeeper, separate payroll solution, and more. Let Collective take care of the paperwork while you take care of business. Collective is the #1 financial solution for freelancers, contractors, and self-employed entrepreneurs that let you focus on your passion, not your paperwork. So let Collective handle all the paperwork you dread, like corporate formation, compliance, taxes, bookkeeping, accounting, even payroll. And the best part is it's a fraction of the cost of a CPA. So Collective knows that if your business of one makes over $80,000 a year, you will find the most value from their services. Join the thousands of solopreneurs who have saved an average of $10,000 per year on taxes with their structure. So right now, Collective is offering a 1-month free with no onboarding fee when you go to collective.com/lockedonnhl and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's a $550 for free when you go to collective.com/lockedonnhl and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's collective.com/lockedonnhl and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. All right, so before we get to I do want to talk a little bit about the defenseman. So actually pretty decent night from the defenseman overall. No Vlasic again tonight. So just interesting to see kind of what they're doing there as they continue to kind of weave in some of the young players. Mario Ferraro led the Sharks and Corsi for tonight, had 14 shot attempts while he was on the ice, gave up 12, 53.85%. Corsi 4. Kalen Addison, nice even 8 for 8 for 50%. Again, did lose, this is all at 5v5. Did leave the game for a couple shifts after that Tom Wilson hit, which he was not happy about. Still thought I think it was a cleanish hit. But Tom Wilson, benefit of the doubt. What's the benefit? And what's the opposite of benefit of the doubt? So that Matt Benning, same 11 for 11, Corsi 4. When he was on the ice, Kyle Burroughs 19 for 23 with 45.24. And then Ty Emberson 9 for 12, 42.86. And then Nikita Okhotiuk 16 for 20 against 22 for 42.11. So not too bad. Nobody got kind of shelled, and you still saw some solid offensive production when those guys were on the ice. Even, and I think Addison was, I like where Addison's game's going. So I think he's going to be, you can start to see it with him where it's, I think, starting to click here. So, but let's look at this road trip, right? And this is the longest Sharks road trip of the season. So they start out Thursday against the Bruins, Friday, so the second game of a back-to-back against the Devils, Sunday against the Rangers. Then they play the Islanders, Red Wings, and Golden Knights. So that is between November 30th and December 10th. So that is a long road trip in there. So we'll start with wins, losses. And right now, the game I'm kind of circling as a potential is the Islanders game, because the Islanders also play a very slow it down type of game. And if maybe your goalie can beat their goalie, they have a great goalie. They have 2 great goalies. That's the game I'm looking at as your potential win. because the Islanders have been kind of meh, but the Bruins I know they've slumped a little bit here, but this is a game the Bruins are going to, we saw what they did to the Sharks earlier this year, and especially if Hertl's not ready. Yeah. The Devils second game on a back-to-back, and it's not much travel, but that team needs to start stringing together some wins, and I think they're just way too talented. Same thing with the Rangers. Rangers are very good. I know they lost tonight to the Sabres. Red Wings are starting to become a bit of a wagon. I know the Golden Knights have struggled recently, but still. And the Sharks have played the Golden Knights pretty tough recently-ish, but still, I'm going to lean the Golden Knights in there. But what's sustainable? And I think the goaltending is sustainable for the Sharks. Both Kaapo Kähkönen and Mackenzie Blackwood have played well. Kaapo Kähkönen's put together some good games recently, especially the win on Saturday night against the Canucks. Like the goaltending, I think is sustainable right now, and even with the mess in front of him, and the defensive structure has been a lot better recently, and I think that stuff is sustainable going forward. And again, this recipe of like get on top and try to kind of hold on, it might work against like a team like the Islanders, who are, offensively, we know how the Islanders kind of like to play this style too. So it could be whoever gets out to lead and kind of tries to park the bus for the next like 40 minutes. There's a chance that happens, but I think when you start to play some of these more dynamic teams like the Rangers, who can go up and down and score, right? The Red Wings, who get same thing, right? They have been a scoring machine, especially with Alex DeBrincat returning to form this season. Vegas, which is a very, very sound defensive team, and maybe not as they're not as offensively dynamic as you would expect for how good they are, but they can score, right? I mean, we know they can score. They put up 7 against Colorado a couple weeks ago, but like some of these teams, you might be able to get away with it and squeak out a win, but you worry when you start to play with these teams that are much more just dynamic offensively. And are you going to get back to the Sharks that we saw earlier this season, that just you get hemmed into your zone and you can't get out? I think though some of the other stuff, I think the power play, I think that's starting to get sustainable, right? Especially with Kalen Addison back there kind of running it. Again, I don't expect them to, outplay whatever power player, but this power play is starting to creep towards the middle of the pack, which was a far cry from what we saw last year and even the beginning of the season. I think since the addition of Kalen Addison, you've seen the power play improve, and even the penalty kill starting to kind of pull itself out of the mud here. So I think the special teams can start to be a bit more sustainable. We'll see what happens. They struggled a little bit against Vancouver, which has a great power play. So I'll be interested to see what happens when they play some of these, like the Rangers, who have a good power play, or the Bruins. See how these power plays can mess with this penalty kill. But I think the goaltending is sustainable. I think the Sharks power play is starting to kind of figure things out and could be sustainable. And if you can continue to squeak out offense from guys like, Mike Hoffman, if Anthony Duclair can get back on track, if, Zetterlund can continue, and if you get Tomas Hertl back kind of driving the bus, I think the Sharks will be competitive in these games. And I think they finally get their first win on the road sometime. I'm kind of circling the Islanders game as the one. But I think, though, it's going to be kind of a bit more of a cold dose of reality, or kind of a splash in the face of what we've seen from the Sharks this year, of you're just not talented enough to kind of compete night in and night out versus some of these. So, which is, if you're team tank like I am, this will be good, because the Blackhawks have caught up. We've caught up with the Blackhawks right now, tied 12 points right now. So Sharks do have an edge in the point percentage / they've played more games. But the Blackhawks are kind of a mess right now, as expected, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. Who knows what's going on with them? And they play some Blackhawks here, so they play They play Seattle, then they go on a bit of a road trip against Detroit, which has been good. Winnipeg, which has been very good, and then Minnesota, who just fired their coach, and then Nashville, Anaheim, St. Louis. So Blackhawks have some winnable games coming up here. So hopefully a Sharks losing streak, Blackhawks can kind of find their game against some these other bottom feeders, and then we can kind of start seeing some separation here for the tank. So that's going to be it for me today. Make sure you guys are going to check out the Locked On Sports Today national channel, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for your 24/7 covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe for the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up this week. So tomorrow, since we're kind of slightly past the quarter part of we're over the 20%, 25%. We'll kind of dig into some of the numbers behind the Sharks, kind of look at where they sit among the NHL, and kind of dig into some of the highlights and what we're expecting a little bit more out of some guys. So we'll do that tomorrow. We're also going to do another kind of prospect watch. So I'll do probably Will Smith, Quentin Musty, and maybe Jake Furlong out there in the queue and see what's going on there. So we'll dive into some of their recent game tapes and see how they're playing. Give my kind of amateur draft or amateur scouting reports on that. So that'll be probably on Thursday, and then we'll have a Bruins recap for you guys on Friday as well. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course you can watch on YouTube as well. You can follow the show also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.